What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new edition of the Wishbone ShotGun podcast, part of the Sports Facility Network, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. I am Mike Rifkin. Hope everybody is doing well. And guys, we're getting closer to the season. We are getting so much closer to football season. You can taste it. Obviously, there's been some preseason. We'll talk about one specific game, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But we got a lot to cover tonight's episode. We're going to cover the northern divisions, both the NFC and AFC North, which both should be extremely competitive. We will get into those. But I want to start with news that came down about a couple of hours ago. The Buccaneers and Vita Vea, remember he had requested a trade because they couldn't come together on a new deal. They have come together on a deal. It's a 1-year extension for $30 million, which means Vita Vea will be in Tampa Bay this season and next. Gets an extra $6 million up front this year, while the rest will be for next year. Huge deal for the Bucs. Massive deal for the Bucs for multiple reasons. Vita Vea is one of the premier defensive tackles of the game. His presence alone on that defense is going to be massive, especially now with no Levante David. Levante David retired. So the middle linebacker positions, a little bit of a question mark there in Tampa Bay. But you get Vita Vea done. He's obviously in camp. So you get that business done too. But here's my thing on Tampa. And they had, I thought, one of the best drafts in the league this year. What does this do with Baker? Baker has 1 year left. If they were to miss the playoffs this year, are we cutting ties with Baker Mayfield and maybe adding a different veteran quarterback? Are we looking ahead to next year's draft class? I'm very intrigued by the Bucs because I think they're one of those teams that they can be. I think they're a sleeper team in the NFC as a whole. Let me be brutally honest with you. I do think they are a massive sleeper team. But what Emeka Egbuka am I getting is a big question. Can Chris Godwin stay healthy is a big question. How they replace Levante David is going to be a question. And can they get over what happened to them last year? We covered that last week on the show. The NFC South is a toss-up, and it's probably only getting one spot in the playoffs. So now I'm interested to see what happens now. But let's see what happens. We fast forward. Vita Vea gets his contract. And the Bucs are legit. Again, we have to wait and see what happens with how the games play out. But we'll get into those in a couple of weeks. We are still only a couple of weeks away. Okay, so that's the first piece of business. And then I want to get into another piece of business on the field. And this does have to do with the preseason. So the Raiders and Cardinals played the preseason, I think it was Friday night, last Friday night. And Jeremiah Love, who was the number 3 overall pick, or 4 overall, no, 4, no, 3. 3, Cardinal Tate was 4. Jeremiah Love had 11 carries for 58 yards, averaged 5.3 a carry. He also had 3 catches, 14 yards, averaged a shade under 5 yards per catch. Mike LaFleur comes out and says Jeremiah Love is dealing with a sore ankle. Shouldn't mean anything towards the regular season, but he's dealing with it, and he's probably out the rest of the preseason. It's the first, or in the Cardinals' case, this was the second preseason game. They played in the Hall of Fame game. Second preseason game. The Cardinals, now, if you look forward, they have 2 more preseason games. They have one on Saturday, then they will have one the following Friday. But look, why is Jeremiah Love in that game for as long as he was? And this goes back to why are we taking a running back in the top 5? Out of all the needs the Cardinals had, they took a running back. And I have no problem with Jeremiah Love. I think he could be a game changer. I just didn't like the pick at the time because the Cardinals have so many other needs. And you fast forward into the season. Well, Jacoby Brissett was holding out. He finally got paid. This Jeremiah Love's now dealing with a sore ankle. Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison. This offense has some upside to it. But I just don't understand because if this thing lingers into the season, what are the Cardinals doing? I would be, if I was a Cardinal fan, I would be screaming right now, being, what, we took a running back, fine. Why is he in that game for as long as he was? Because this is what we didn't want. We don't want to hear sore ankle. I don't want to hear soreness in the knee, hamstring. I don't want to hear any of that. We're too close to the season. Like I understand he's a little gimpy in practice. Okay, we can rest him a couple of days. He doesn't have first preseason game and we're having the second preseason game and we're having an issue. I don't like that. I don't like that from a Cardinal perspective. I definitely don't like it from a fan perspective because it has nothing to do with the player. It has to do with coaching. And I gotta understand I don't understand why Michael Floor had him in the game as long as he did. That's what should frustrate fans. That's what frustrates me. And I gotta be honest with you guys. I barely watched preseason. Starters are only in for a drive or two. I don't care after that. I can't watch all the backups. It's not my thing. Okay. One other tidbit, then we'll get into the episode. The Giants signed Najee Harris the other day to a 1-year deal. They cut Juju Smith-Schuster. I got to be honest with you. I love this sign for the Giants. You pair Najee Harris up with Cam Scatterboo. You still have Tyrell Tracy. Maybe that makes Tracy expendable to a degree. But I like it. I know he's coming off an Achilles injury, but before that in Pittsburgh, Najee Harris was rushing for 1,000 yards every year. It's not the sexiest 1,000 yards, but it's 1,000 yards. And you take that any way you get it. And anything that can help Jackson Dart, whether it's running the football, whether it's being a weapon for him, whether it's, making a block for Jackson Dart, I like this signing for the Giants. I think he's a very good piece. And who would know Najee Harris better than John Harbaugh, who coached against him when he was in Baltimore? So I think that's a really good, at this stage of the offseason, that's a really good sign for the Giants. And I think it kind of shows you what the Giants are trying to become. The Giants are trying to become a tougher football team. You can see it in the way they drafted and the way they went about free agency. Harbaugh's trying to instill this team with toughness, and I got to give him love for that. We will cover the Eastern divisions next week. But yeah, I like what John Harbaugh's doing. Okay, one other little tidbit, then we'll get into it. Jordan Tyson, the Saints' first-round pick, he is going to miss, it looks like, about 2 months with a little hamstring injury. It's brutal for a rookie. They talked about this throughout the combine. The Saints took the risk. And it just sucks. You hate it for the young man. You hate it for the organization because apparently he was having a really good camp. But it sucks. And now someone's going to have to step up for the Saints, and we'll see what happens. The Saints are one of those teams in the NFC South. Again, it's up for grabs. So Jordan Tyson missing the first month or so. Massive. All right. So there's two big things here on this episode. Again, we'll get into the Northern divisions. But I wanted to talk about this quote from Roger Goodell. Uh, he was talking to a German television station, and Roger Goodell said, "quote At some point there will be NFL teams outside the USA. I have no doubt that this will happen one day." Close quote. So Goodell's talking about expanding the NFL internationally. And we talk a lot about globalizing the game and all the international games. There's three in London, there's a Paris game, there's a Madrid game this year. I got to tell you, I don't love this because I kind of feel, I'm going to say this as nicely kind of as I can. I just don't understand why we have to keep going with this. And I give the people of Europe credit for who go to these games. I really do. And if they're into it, they're into it. Give them a ton of credit. But I'll say this: I think we have to think about something different instead of just globalizing. What if, hear me out, we just redid NFL Europe, which was a thing years ago? If you could get the support on that, because I think you could get more support on NFL Europe 2.0 than you can having teams in all of these different countries. Because what's going to happen? Oh, well, the Jags are playing. I don't know. The Jags are playing in London. Not for a home game, but the Jags are traveling to London to play whatever team we're putting in London. So we're expecting the Jags to travel back and then play the next week. Now I get it. Now there's an option. You could have the bye week after that travel, or you just keep playing, get a later bye week. But let's say you're going there week 2. Oh, you're gonna get a week 3 bye? What does that do? So unless you're gonna give teams a second bye week, which is coming if they do the 18 game schedule, which excuse me, we all believe is coming at some point. Now we're looking at this going, okay, that if that happens, we need the second bye week. But again, if you're traveling, and I'm not talking like local, I'm not talking. Oh, the Bucks have to fly to San Diego or L.A. and then the next week they got to fly to New York. I'm not even talking like that. Cross country, I'm talking. I'm talking internationally. We're going to send the Jags to London. They're going to come back, play the Titans the next week. I just don't like that. And I think if you do NFL Europe, the thing we could do is NFL Europe could be kind of like what the XFL and UFL things are, where we just sit there and we can go, okay, well, we can sign guys off those teams. Make NFL Europe the same thing. It gives guys an opportunity, well, one, to go abroad, but two, it gives them an opportunity to showcase their skills on an international level at a high level. So I just think we have to. I think there is a better way for the NFL to go about this as opposed to just NFL year or better way to go about to just placing teams. Like we get it. The Jags want to play in London eventually. ShotGun wants to put them in London at some point, right? Like, it's not even London call. Shout out the Clash. So I don't love the idea, Roger. You want to do it? I don't love it. I would rather go NFL Europe 2.0, allow teams to sign guys as free agents. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Northern Division previews. AFC North, NFC North. I'm going to start in the NFC because I got some bold thoughts on the NFC. I have some bold thoughts on the AFC too, but I'm going to go with the NFC because I think it's going to be a more competitive division. So last year, the standings looked like this. The Bears won the division at 11-6. The Packers went 9-7-1. And then the Vikings and Lions each were 9-8. So the Bears, they bring Garrett Bradbury, the center, Kobe Bryant, the safety, who's going to miss some time, broken leg. They also brought in Devin Bush. Remember, they cut Tremaine Edmonds, who wound up signing with the Giants. Here's my big question on the Bears. I have two questions. The first one is the Madden curse. Caleb Williams is on the cover. We all know what the historical context of the Madden curse will strike Caleb Williams. The real question for me is who on this offense is going to replace DJ Moore. Everything you read, Luther Burden's had a really good training camp. He's also had a little bit of a groin issue. This is a big. DJ Moore was a very relied upon guy in this offense. And yeah, Roma Dinzier had moments last year. They have Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland at tight end. DeAndre Swift was really good out of the backfield. But when you needed a big play, it was DJ Moore who had Caleb Williams on lock. Now, with DJ Moore going to Buffalo, who has the ability on this offense to be that guy? Is it Roma Dinzier? Is it Colston Loveland? I think that's a big question here for this Bears offense. And I got to tell you, I think Ben Johnson creatively will figure that out. That's going to be the really interesting thing, I think, about the Bears early. 3rd and 5. Where's the ball going, Caleb? Who does Caleb trust enough to get the ball? That's a really important question, in my opinion. Bear defense should be better. Should be fine. I thought they played pretty well last year at times. We'll see what happens here. I think the Bears. I think the Bears are very good. I think this division is going to be very good. There's one team I'm going to be very low on that I think other people are going to be shaking their heads. I'll give my reason in a couple of minutes, but there's no reason the Bears can't go back to back here. So we'll see what happens. But if Caleb can stay healthy, if DeAndre Swift can stay healthy, if they establish somebody to play that DJ Moore role, those are the important things here for the Chicago Bears. All right. The Packers finished 9-7-1, bulked up on defense. Javon Hargrave comes in from Minnesota. Benjamin St-Juste, the corner. Zaire Franklin, who I believe led the league in tackles one year, or he was up near the top. Packers bulked up on defense. Now, here's going to be the interesting question about the Packers. They also lost Elton Jenkins on the offensive line. He went to Cleveland. Two-part question here for the Packers on defense. They're going to be down 2 guys to start the year. They're already down Rashawn Gary. They sent him to Dallas. And they don't have Micah Parsons the first couple of weeks. He's already on PUP, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks. So now, where is this pass rush coming from? That's important here. The Packers have been really good the past couple of years of taking the ball away. If you can't generate a rush, can you force the turnovers? It's going to be a big question here in Green Bay about that defense. And if you look at the Packers' schedule, sorry about this patch, but if you look at the Packers' schedule, fun. You know, they're going to open up at Minnesota. That's a huge game early in the season. Division game week 1 on the road. And you're going to be down your 2-star pass rush. Remember, Rashawn Gary sent to Dallas. and Mike Parsons PP again. But if you look at the Packers' schedule, man, just going through it, their first 7 games. Actually, let's go to the bye week. They have the bye week in week 11 at Minnesota, at the Jets, Atlanta on a Thursday night. Now, the break for them is they get Atlanta at home, but the break is for Atlanta, it won't be freezing. At Tampa, the Bears, the Cowboys on a Sunday night, which is probably when Micah Parsons returns. At Detroit, Carolina on a Thursday night, at New England, Minnesota bye week. And then after the bye week, all they got to do is go to the Rams. Actually, post bye week at Rams. They get the Bills on a Sunday night, at the Bears Christmas Day, Houston, Detroit. That's the back half of their schedule. And here's the other thing about the Green Bay Packers. And I've said it last year. I'll say it again. I don't love Jordan Love. I like Jordan Love. And are these receivers going to be able to make some plays? That's a huge question here. Christian Watson, when he's healthy, he can make some plays. Matthew Golden, we need to see what it is. You were dumb enough to let Romeo Doubs go to New England, which I completely blanked on until now. I don't know why. But Romeo Doubs left. Now, all of a sudden, that receiving room looks a little different. They still have Tucker Kraft coming back off the ACL. Josh Jacobs, remember the whole domestic violence thing? We have to see if the NFL is going to do something about that. A little bit more on that when at the end of the show. But that's a big question mark now, too. I have questions regarding the Packers. I really do. I like the job Matt LaFleur's done. There's a lot of question marks here. And this schedule doesn't make me feel any better. Even their their toughest road game out of division is the Rams. Actually, you know what? You could even say New England's a tough road game and Tampa Bay. Those are their 3 tough road games out of division. I mean, they're good. And they go to Chicago, but again, that's in division. So I don't love the Packers. I don't love the schedule for the Packers. Let's do Detroit next. The Lions 9-8 last year. Kind of, after making the NFC title game, had some injury issues, had some other things just didn't fall their way. This is a big year, I think, for Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell needs to reassert himself and this team to make a statement. They have to make a statement here. And my point on this being a statement for them, I mean, they made some moves this offseason. Cade Mays plays center. Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to replace David Montgomery in those short yardage situations. They bring in Devin White, the linebacker. Roger McCreary comes in. Chuck Clark comes in. If this line can hold up. Now, their early portion of the schedule is, I mean, they get the week 6 bye, but they get New Orleans at Buffalo on Thursday night, the Jets at Carolina, at Arizona. I mean, they could go 4-1 in those 5 games. I mean, the toughest game is at Buffalo. I mean, Carolina's a good team, but they should handle that. That's on the road, but that's also Sunday night. At Arizona, again, that should be one they handle. I think they can handle the Saints. And, unless Aaron Glenn does some revenge voodoo stuff, they should handle the Jets. But then you look after the bye week, they get a lot of home games. Packers at home, Vikings at home. New England is going to be at a neutral location. Oh, they get New England in London, I believe. But Tampa Bay at home, the Bears at home. Then they go to Atlanta. And then their last four, Titans at the Vikings, the Giants, the Bears, Packers are our last five. I look at the back half for the Lions, and I go, you know what? They can handle all those games. If Jared Goff is Jared Goff 2 years ago, and Jahmyr Gibbs is what they paid him to be, we know how good Amon-Ra St. Brown is. Sam Laporta, we know, is a stud. The question is going to be, can Jameson Williams, in my opinion, step up? He had moments last year. Can he put it together for a full season? And if they are not as deep at receivers they'd like, can they make a move and pull a trigger on something that really helps them at the position? Because I'm going through the depth chart right now on ESPN. They got the three receivers as Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Isaac Tesla. If Tesla could come through and Jameson Williams could come through, we know what St. Brown is. We know what Laporta is. And they just paid Jahmyr Gibbs a lot of money to be really good. Then if the offensive line plays well enough, which that's their foundation, and then you look at this defense led by Aiden Hutchinson, if they can make some plays, I think this is the team in the division. I think Detroit is the team to I think if anyone's unseating the Bears, I think it's Detroit. I really do. I'll jump into the Vikings now since we're talking about Broad Kyler. Talked a lot about that last week. We'll get into more in a minute. But they really didn't do a whole lot. They also brought in Jawan Jennings to be receiver 3. Look, we talked about it last week. Kyler, can he be the guy? If he's the guy, then this Viking team is very dangerous. But if he's not, what does that do for a few things? Like the future of Kyler himself, the future of Kevin O'Connell, the future of Justin Jefferson. But let's be honest here about Kyler Murray. This is the best group he's ever worked with. Addison, Jefferson, Jennings, TJ Hawkinson, and then you add in Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in the backfield. The Vikings have a lot of talent and skill. And here's the thing about Kyler this year. The Vikings don't have to win shootouts. They have a really good defensive coordinator. Some guy by the name of Brian Flores is still running things. They have a legitimate defense. So, if Kyler can put up, argument's sake, 24, the Vikings should be able to hold other teams under 24. And if you look at their schedule, talked about it, Green Bay to open up, at the Bears, at the Bucks. Then they get the Dolphins at home and at New Orleans before they go on the bye week. Post-bye week, Colts at the Lions, the Bills on a Monday night, at Green Bay, San Francisco, that's a neutral site game, Atlanta, Carolina, at New England on a Thursday, Detroit, Washington at the Jets, and the Bears. Again, outside of a couple of games, the second half is very reasonable. And let's be honest, the first half, The first three games are very tough. Then you get Miami and New Orleans. Maybe you go 1-1 in that stretch. Maybe after 5 weeks, you're 3-2. At worst, you should be 3-2. At, at, yeah, at worst, you should be 3-2. At worst, you should be 2-3. But then Indy's a beatable team. San Francisco, we don't know what they're going to look like. They're really good. They're really good, but they're always hurt. Atlanta, I don't think it matters if it's Tua. I don't think it matters if it's Penix. That defense should romp Atlanta. New England on a Thursday night will be tough. Washington, I don't know what the Commanders are going to be. We'll get into them again next week. At the Jets late in the year, that may be K Club playing for next year. Aaron Glenn may still be coaching for his job, or it's Frank Reich. I don't know. And then Chicago, week 18. Who knows? But this comes down to Kyler. If Kyler Murray is one of the best quarterbacks in football, or one of the better quarterbacks in football, he has to prove it this year. He's got a great group of receivers. He's got a great running back. He's got a great coach. He has to put it together. There's no more Cardinal Kyler Murray where it has to be, oh, well, the defense let Kyler down. Or Kyler's supporting cast let him down. It's not a thing in Minnesota. They're too talented. They're too talented and too good. So the excuses stop now. And if the Vikings don't make the playoffs, I don't know what they do. I'll tell you this. Excuse me. If Justin Jefferson's available, every team's making that call. Again, no official predictions for a couple of weeks. So we're going to break that down. So we'll do the Eastern Divisions next week. The following week, prediction show. But yeah, so right now, I think Detroit and Chicago are the two teams who will battle out for the NFC North, while Minnesota's the sleeper. Minnesota's the sleeper. I am not high on Green Bay. I'm just not high enough on them. Maybe it's the lack of cheese in my diet at the moment. I don't know. Now we jump into the AFC North, and division looked like this. The Steelers went 10-7. Baltimore 9, Bengals 6-11, Brownies 5-12. We're going to go opposite direction. We're going to go from the bottom up because I got thoughts on all these teams. Cleveland 5-12. They bring in Todd Monken to be the new coach. Made a lot of moves this offseason. They really, really did. Titus Howard comes in. Elgton Jenkins comes in. They're helping on the offensive line. Jared Verse they get in the trade with the Rams for Myles Garrett. They also brought in Zion Johnson to help on the offensive line. The question is quarterback. It's Deshaun Watson. It's Shedeur Sanders. And everyone's debating who should play. And I think the answer is very easy. Shedeur Sanders has to play. And I don't even love the way Shedeur plays. I don't. But if you want an answer to who could potentially be your franchise quarterback, forget looking ahead to the draft in 27, where you could have Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Julian Saint, whoever. Let's see what you got with Shedeur Sanders. You let Baker Mayfield go, and he's turned into a great quarterback. I'm not sitting here and saying Shedeur Sanders is going to be the greatest quarterback. But I want to see what he's got when he's got a full complement of weapons. Harold Fannin at tight end. Jerry Jeudy's still there. They drafted Casey Concepcion. Quinshawn Judkins in the backfield. Revamp the line. Let's see what Shedeur Sanders has. Deshaun Watson has not earned, in my opinion, the right to play. Oh, Mike, that's not fair. He got hurt. What was he doing before he got hurt, guys? He was bad. He was bad. He made every other quarterback in Browns history go back to Tim Couch look like an all pro. Deshaun Watson hasn't been the same guy since he got paid, since he got suspended. And if he is playing, I don't care how much they restructure the deal. You're still paying Deshaun Watson money. I don't care how much you restructure. The answer to the question is Shedeur Sanders should be your starting quarterback. And if Shedeur stinks, guess what? We know where we are. In the 27 draft list, we're going to be up at the top. We get our pick of the quarterback. But if you start Watson, he sucks. You turn to Shedeur. That leaves two things. One, you can never go back to Deshaun Watson. And two, people will ask, well, if Shedeur's balling out, why didn't we just start him in the first place? Shedeur Sanders, I'm not saying he's going to be the answer to the long term. We have no freaking clue. But he's more of a long term option than Deshaun Watson. At this point, forget the trade you lost. You won't make back those 3 firsts you gave up for Deshaun Watson or whatever it was. You're not getting back the money either. So you have to play Shedeur Sanders. I think it's must. And if you are starting Deshaun Watson, it's not because he was the best in practice or the best in camp or had the better preseason. It's because Jimmy Haslam said, I wrote that dude a check for $230 million. I don't give a damn how many times we restructured. That's my money. I don't want my money sitting on my bench. That's where we're at with Cleveland. And if I'm a Browns fan, you better hope. Todd Monken says, I can't do it. We're playing Shedeur. And if Shedeur stinks up the joint, Shedeur stinks up the joint. That's when you can turn to Watson. But don't get suckered in by either one. If either one suckers you in at the end of the year, be like, we don't need a quarterback in the 27th draft, then you're just lying to yourself. That's the problem there in Cleveland. Shedeur should start. The presence of Watson is not a great thing, but the presence of everybody in Cleveland. Well, this Brown defense could be really pretty good, led by Jared Verse. They've drafted really well on defense over the past couple of years. I give Cleveland credit. I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team in the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to be a pain in the ass to play against. So at 5-12, that could quickly become 8-9. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. It probably won't happen this year. But I'll tell you what, there are some games that this team can win. If you look at their schedule, as I wait on ESPN to load up. Okay. At Jacksonville, it's a winnable game. I think the Jags are world beaters. At Tampa Bay, probably a loss. Carolina, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, Cleveland's got to stop being a Thursday or Monday night game. Stop doing that to us, NFL. Pittsburgh at home. They beat Pittsburgh at home last year. At the Jets, that's a winnable game. Baltimore. No. Tennessee, it's a winnable game. At Pittsburgh. Be nice, say they split with Pittsburgh. At the Saints. Hey, if Jordan Tyson's still out, they got a chance. Houston. I'm not loving that one. And then after the bye week, the Raiders. That's a winnable game. The Bengals, Atlanta, all 3 of those games at home. At the Giants, we'll see. At Baltimore, I think they'd have a better chance of being Baltimore at home than on the road. Indy, maybe Indy's better than I think, but could be a winnable game. And at Cincinnati, Cleveland's got a shot here at winning some games, depending on if they can get the quarterback play. And more likely, in my opinion, you're likely to get that out of Shedeur than Watson. All right. Bengals. 6-11 unacceptable. A lot of that was due to Joe Burrow being hurt. Let's be honest. And the defense, as it's done in years past, let this team down. They scored 40 against the Jets and lost a game. And they still have Joe Flacco as the backup. But look, they have one of the most dynamic offenses in the league with Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown in the backfield's been really important for them. And then they revamped this defense. They said, we don't need a top 10 pick. We're going to go get Dexter Lawrence from the Giants. Great move. They get Boy Mafe, who can help off the edge. What with Shamar Stewart? Okay. No more Trey Hendrickson. Jonathan Allen can go right into the middle next to Dexter Lawrence. Have fun trying to run up the gaps. And they added Brian Cook from Kansas City, who went to school at Cincinnati for the back end. This defense does not have to be phenomenal. They have to be just good enough. Joe Burrow's going to put up numbers as long as the line can protect him. But you look at their schedule here. They open up with Tampa at home. That's winnable. At Houston. That'll be a fun matchup, to be honest with you. At Pittsburgh, winnable. Jacksonville, winnable. At Miami. I mean, we don't know how I'm thinking that one goes. Bye week. At Baltimore. They've put numbers up on the Ravens. Tennessee, they should beat. Atlanta, they get it on neutral site, but that should be fine. Pittsburgh, let's say they split. At Washington. Remember, that was a fun Monday nighter a couple of years ago. New Orleans, they should beat. Cleveland, they should beat. They get Kansas City in December at home. At Carolina. At Indianapolis. The Ravens on a Thursday night. Cleveland, 10 the year. Although I'll say this, that at Carolina could be a trap game. There's no reason the Bengals can't win 10 or 11 games. And if they don't, Zach Taylor should be on the first plane out of Cincinnati. This team is too talented. Injury screwed them last year. I'm no doubt about it. They got to find a way this year. This defense has to do its job. No more losing 38-35, 34-31. It's unacceptable. You got to win games for Joe Burrow. And if Joe Burrow requests a trade, I'm going to, like Jefferson, I'm making that first phone call. It's unacceptable. They got to be better. And I think they will be better. Mainly because it can't get worse. Ravens, 8-9. Again, that had a lot to do with two things. Lamar getting hurt, and that defense last year in Baltimore was unaccustomed to what we've seen in the past. That defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. And they added to defense. Jesse Minter, new coach, which, by the way, love it. Great hire. Trey Hendrickson, great signing. Shadube Awuzie, who the corner was in Cincinnati and Dallas. He comes into Baltimore. They added John Simpson up front, bolster the line a little bit. They did lose Tyler Linderbaum, which really sucks. But listen, we'll see what happens. The Baltimore, this is a huge year for Lamar. Lamar's got a contract coming his way. He's got to play really well this year, and I think he will. He's got a plethora of weapons. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry. I mean, they still have Mark Andrews, luckily for them. They drafted a couple of receivers in Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. Gives them some size. They still have Bateman. But this team, we know what they're going to want to do. Run, smash mouth football, Derrick Henry style. And if you look at their schedule, let's go through it, babe. At Indianapolis, winnable game. New Orleans, at home, should be a win. They had Dallas and Rio de Janeiro for some reason. I do hear Tony Romo's going to try to drive to that game, so everyone be careful. Tennessee, at home, winnable game. At Atlanta, that's going to depend on who the quarterback in Atlanta is, but the Raven defense could suffocate them. At Cleveland, that could be a trap. And anytime I'm saying at Cleveland, it's a trap. Cincy at home, at Buffalo, massive game. Is that a 1:00 CBS game? I have to look at the schedule in a minute, make sure I get that one on the television. Here's a trap for you. Jacksonville at home on a Thursday night right after that Bills game. By the way, Jacksonville gets sandwiched between at Buffalo and the Chargers on a Monday night. That's love. At Carolina. For the Ravens, that should be a win. At Houston, that should be a defensive matchup, them in Houston. I don't know if a ton of points will be scored, but defense will be fun. Bye week, Tampa Bay, winnable game. At Pittsburgh, Cleveland, at Cincy, Pittsburgh again. Even if they split with Pittsburgh. This is the team for me. Again, I'm not making an official prediction. To me, this is the best team in the AFC. I firmly believe if they right the defense with what they have on offense and the talent that's on this defense, I think they are the best team in the AFC. I really do. I think they're better than Buffalo, better than Kansas City, better than the Chargers. And to the people of Baltimore, I apologize for saying that because I am the kiss of death when it comes to predictions. Just look at some of my fantasy stuff. And let me be brutally honest when I say this. I'm probably part of the reason Joe Burrow got hurt last year because, of course, I drafted him. So I apologize, Baltimore. And I picked you in the past. I picked you the past couple of years. I really like this roster. So I think that should be more telling than anything. But I like the Ravens, guys. I really do. And then there's the Steelers, who, for some stupid reason, go 10-7 every year. They brought in Mike McCarthy, comes in from Mike Tomlin. They bring in Michael Pittman, Rico Dowdle, Jamal Dean, amongst others. They also signed a bunch of their own guys to extensions. But the big story is this: Mike McCarthy comes in, Aaron Rodgers is back for one more year. And I got to be honest with you, even if this is the last run, I'm out. I'm out on the Steelers. I'm Steelered out, guys. And I don't say that to be disrespectful. I say that because I keep thinking the Steelers ignore everything that we want them to do. And the thing they ignore, in my opinion, the most is the quarterback position. And yes, Mason Rudolph's still on the roster. Will Howard is still on the roster. Drew Aller was drafted this year. I would have preferred this going into this year where it's a triple threat match between Rudolph, Howard, and Aller. And you go from there. Because I think everybody wants to believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are a serious Super Bowl contender. Truth of the matter is they're not. Unless they all of a sudden have this all world explosion on offense and defense. But let me ask you a question. I'm not going to answer this myself, so I want you to think. When was the last time the Pittsburgh, and don't tell me week 18 against the Ravens. When was the last time the Steelers won a game of meaning and you looked at them and you go, that was really impressive. Really impressed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know the last time I could sit there and say, I was thoroughly impressed that the Steelers did this to a really good team. I don't remember the last time I could say that. And I go back to games last year where they're playing, I remember the game when they played Buffalo at home, and I go, you know what? You want to prove to me you're for real? Beat Buffalo. And they were actually winning that game for a while. And then things went bad. Oh, Mike, well, Aaron got hurt in that game. That's what happens when you put your faith in a 42-year-old quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers for so long have ignored the quarterback position. Big Ben, perfect example. They went from Big Ben, and then they were like, well, we can just, we'll put it together. And they kick the can down the road, and they bring in Russell Wilson. Well, that didn't work. Well, what if we bring in Russ with Justin Fields? That's smart. But when Justin Fields plays really well, you just go back to Russ. Well, that didn't work. So let's get older and wiser and go to Aaron Rodgers. And I'm just frustrated at this point because not only are you getting older at the position and you keep kicking the can down the road, but look at your division for a second. You're in a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, two of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. And you had to rely last year. Let's be brutally honest here. They had to rely last year on Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson getting hurt. And the Ravens started 1-4 or whatever. By the way, week 18, if Tyler Luke makes that field goal, Ravens win. Ravens win the division, Steelers go home. And we don't have to watch that 30-6 beat down the Houston Texans gave them. We have to start, let me phrase that better. We have to stop overrating this team. And maybe things changed under Mike McCarthy than they did Mike Tomlin. Again, I'm not trying to slander Mike Tomlin. I have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin. This team hasn't won a playoff game in a decade. And I'm sitting here going, 43-year-old Aaron Rodgers reunites with his old coach, the guy he had the most success with. And I'm going to be, here we go. Do we think we're getting 25 or 26-year-old Aaron Rodgers? No. You're getting a 46-year-old Aaron Rodgers. That's what he is. That's who he is. Oh, it's okay, Mike. We brought in Michael Pittman. We have DK. We have Freiermuth. We're pretty good. Can this line protect Aaron Rodgers? It's a big question. And look, let's look at the schedule, guys. Let's look at it. Atlanta at home. I got to be honest with you. I like them to beat Atlanta. At New England. Remember, they beat New England last year, but New England have 5 turnovers. At Cincinnati, let's say they split with Cincinnati. Cleveland. Remember, Cleveland beat them on a Thursday night last year, or not on Thursday night. Cleveland beat them at home last year. Beat them on a Thursday night a couple of years ago. They get Indy at home. They should probably win that one. At Tampa, if Tampa's rolling, I like Tampa. The Saints in Paris, they should win. Cleveland, they should beat Cleveland at home. Cincy again, maybe they split with Cincy. Then they get here's a stretch for you. From November 22nd on, actually, you know what? I'm going to give Cincy. I'll let from November 15th. These are the games played at Cincy, at Philly, Denver on Black Friday. I don't know what just happened. My phone had a little mishap. Denver on Black Friday. Houston on a Sunday night. At Jacksonville on a Monday night. Baltimore at home. Carolina at home. At Tennessee. That should be a win. And then at Baltimore. So after the second Bengal game, so they're done with the Bengals after week 15 or November 15th, whatever week that is. Philly, Denver, Houston, Jacksonville, Carolina. 5 of 7 playoff teams. Baltimore are 2 more games, and they could have been a playoff team had Lamar not gotten hurt. I don't love the Steelers' schedule. I don't love the Steelers' roster. I don't love the fact that 43-year-old Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback for them. Not because of his age or because of what it means. Because I thought the Steelers had an opportunity to do something this offseason. After they mutually agreed to part ways with Mike Tomlin, take the Tomlin out of the air quotes, sorry. But mutually agreed to part ways, which still is my most favorite thing in the world, because that's basically said, yeah, we fired him. We just don't want to say we fired him. You could have rebuilt this thing. You could have said, you know what? What can I get for TJ Watt? What could I get for even DK Metcalf? And let's start this thing from scratch. Let's bring in a young, innovative mind to where this league is going. Instead, we are going to go with Mike McCarthy. And we're going to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And we're going to run it back. And when Aaron Rodgers and McCarthy don't get you here to where you want to go, Aaron's retiring after the year, most likely. Are we okay with Will Howard starting next year or Drew Aller starting next year? We don't know a damn thing about him outside of what we see in preseason. Or are we going to just, I know because I see it on social media, the Steelers should sign Baker next year. It's a terrible idea. Stop kicking the can down the road. Accept it. Accept the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, who've been one of the best teams in all football, in the history of football, accept the fact that you may have to start, even if it's a small miniature rebuild or retool, whatever the hell you want to call it. Because here's the thing, Pittsburgh. Again, whether it's Aaron Rodgers Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, or the second coming of Terry Bradshaw? Are you better than, and this is a question every team has to ask themselves, are you better this year than Buffalo? No. Are you better than Kansas City? No. Are you better than Baltimore and Cincinnati, who are in your own division? In my opinion, the answer would be emphatic no. Are you better than Denver? No. Are you better than the Los Angeles Chargers? No. Are you better than New England? No, in my opinion. I don't understand the reluctancy of that organization. No, I do. I do understand the reluctancy. The Steelers, as a whole, too big of an ego to say, you know what, we should kick the. We're going to continue to kick the can down the road. We're going to continue. We're going to be this arrogant organization because we're going to get it right. They haven't won a playoff game in a decade, and it doesn't freaking matter. You know what, Pittsburgh? It does matter. And I would have way more respect for the organization if you just said, you know what? We're not on their level. I'm tired of watching the Steelers play a national television game and getting embarrassed. Are Steeler fans that upset? I don't know. Brutal stuff. Again, predictions come in 2 weeks, and I'll tell you this: I'm not picking the Steelers win the AFC North. I am so out on the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys, that you have no idea how much I would love for the Steelers to go 7-10 this year. No idea. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Wishbone Shotgun podcast, part of the Sports Insanity Network. If you are on the YouTube page, like, comment, subscribe to the network. Follow the socials, Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network, Twitter, Insanity Real. You can follow me personally, Twitter, Punmaster Rifkin, same name on Blue Sky. Go to the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Next week, we preview the Eastern divisions in both the AFC and the NFC, and why I'm going to tell you right now, the Dolphins aren't winning the AFC East. It was worth a shot, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Ripken. We'll talk to you all next week.